Hello and welcome to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast who, after appearing on the What's a Score podcast with Danny O'Brien last week, now knows what it's like to record in a professional environment, and thus is just loving podcasting now, because they didn't love podcasting before.
I'm hoping I never learn properly.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it was like when I did the Scrum 5 pod in person. That sounds like a name drop immediately. Sorry.
Sorry.
But like they spent like half an hour beforehand just running around trying to find somewhere to film it or record it because they're doing it at the Vale. And they were just like, can we do it out here? And in the end, they had to me and the producer ended up running around getting like garden chairs out for Nicky Robinson to sit in for us to do it outside. And it was really cold that day. And then they had to interview Wayne Pivac while I sat and watched on a garden bench.
Nothing will top the Scrum 5 pod, which is like one of only two I've listened to, is the one straight after Australia, where they're recording it and the bin lorries are just going back and forth. And if that's not a metaphor for where Welsh rugby is I don't know. And obviously I listened to the one at the Ospreys before the Scarlets game, which is a very good one, actually. I'll give them that. So welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast. My name is James. Joining me as always are the boys, Robbie, Yestin. How are we? Yestin, that's your cue normally.
Oh, sorry. My AirPods decided to connect to my laptop, even though they're closed in the case. And for some unknown reason, they just connected it all up. So, that was weird. And that's the second time that's happened over the last couple of weeks. So I just forgot to switch my Bluetooth off on my laptop. That's just a mistake. But yeah, I'm still here.
First world podcast problems. People.
I'm hoping we never learn from this.
I wasn't just thinking about anything. I just tried to switch off my Bluetooth.
No, I'm just enjoying my time being here before Sam Lana comes in and takes my place. So we're slowly working around to becoming an Ospreys fan.
What you two don't know is that I have to justify our existence in the rap chat every week, because they all market themselves as this, like, so you've got the Scarlets pod, which is obviously like the oldest one, but they have Hugh who does all the analysis and Mike does the community game stuff. Then you've got Jamie who gets all these like amazing guests on. He's had like Ian Goff, he had Ian Frizzell from the Ulster sort of a big supporter this week. And then you sort of like Cardiff, you've got Carwyn, who's, big BBC journalist. And then you've got this absolute disgrace of a podcast who does no analysis, talks about fucking Boothie Bingo and plays good player every week. This is I typed out the blurb to the boys the other week, and they were like, "Are you actually going to publish this?" And it was like, because if you saw the blurb, like, people don't read it, but if you saw the blurb from last week, and just for those who don't know, I will read it out, because I was quite proud. Like, I send this to Lee at like 11:30 before I go to bed. So the title last week is that the one with the face charge down. So I said the boys are back with some actual content to talk about contract renewal. Oh no, this wasn't. It was the one before. Sorry, they didn't want it. I was like, the boys take a look back at the emphatic win against Ulster. Talk about why Jason Harries is Julian Savia, and ask the question: can Stellan Skarsgård play Toby Booth in the film?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think he's got range. I think Stellan Skarsgård's got range.
I can't see much wrong with comparing Jason Harris to Julian Savia either.
Same player, as far as I'm concerned.
If you go on like Spotify, there's like little tabs underneath where you can like click on certain keywords to explore more on Spotify, and it's just Jason Harries and Stellan Skarsgård. So I type in Jason Harries, and there's like clearly like the only thing Jason Harries has ever been mentioned in is our podcast, and there's like other people called Jason, and then you actually got like Stellan Skarsgård stuff
being interviewed somewhere about, funnily enough, Jason Harries.
Yeah, he's a massive Cardiff Blues fan, but switched off when they went to Cardiff Rugby.
Yeah, he didn't no affinity anymore. No affinity. He just loves the colour blue. That's where his real affinity lies.
They peaked in Bilbao.
All downhill from there.
So Since we were last on, we've had some more contract renewals. So let's start in chronological order. We have Hugh Sutton. Hugh Sutton, no. We were on air
Hugh
with
Sutton was last week.
Hugh Sutton, yeah, we were for that. Yeah, Hugh Sutton was fine. So Hugh Sutton's re-signed. Garen Phillips and Luke Scully have put pen to paper this week. Hands up, who thought Luke Scully was like 27? Me.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I think
he's 24 today.
Happy birthday to him. Yeah, big day for Luke Scully's birthday.
My personal Instagram follower, Luke Scully.
Speaking of Scully's, like it's Blaine Scully's like 6th birthday tomorrow because it's the 29th of February and he is a leap year birthday. I remember talking about this. We had him on a different podcast I did. I'm going off on every podcast I've ever done here. Sorry. But yeah, happy birthday to Blaine Scully. I want to take every chance I can because you only get a birthday every 4 years. Luke Scully, I think is a really solid re-signing. As we've seen this year, he can play everywhere. He's a test level 13, and he's a very solid club level 10. Can also play fullback supposedly. But you say, I think because he came through as a young player, like a promising youngster at Cardiff, disappeared for like a year, and then came back as a promising player for. Actually, he played for Worcester for a bit, didn't he?
No, this is what I thought. So I thought, like you, Robbie, that he came through the Cardiff system. He didn't. He's an Ospreys boy who then left to go to Worcester. Then sort of played, I think, for like Cornish Pirates at some point.
Right.
Then played. Was weirdly at Cardiff, and then we brought him back. I assume these are from the ages of like 12 to 19 because I can't see where all this time has gone.
One competitive game for Worcester was while he was in the under-20s.
Yeah.
He came off the bench in a loss to Saracens, which sounds like a Worcester thing to do.
That screams Graham Kitchener as captain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Andrew Kitchener as captain. You're very close.
Yeah,
his brother.
One of them. So we were very into this, weren't we? We were like, so was Luke Scully in the under-20s? So we're going to go off on a tangent already to talk about under-20s. Because we found, was it the Wales v Italy under-20s?
Yeah.
You found. And it was...
There's a clip of that game from. This is going to be in a video out next week on the channel Squid Rugby on YouTube. There's a little clip of that game coming up. But yeah, the Wales team. There's a few like Sam Costello starts and Luke Scully came off the bench for him. You had Josh Thomas at fullback as the other 10 in that squad, which is a strong contingent. And Aaron Owen at 12. Sorry, with Osher Knott, former Osprey. I'm not sure he actually played. Yeah,
horrific injury. On the weekend as well for Carmarthen Quins, I think we were.
Oh man,
yesterday.
He's playing for the Whites. Might have been a big game before.
He's been on. I think he went on permit, didn't he? Or was he in the Whites?
No,
anyway,
he's been playing for the Whites all season, I think. Unless
also in that team, Theo Bavakwa. Do you remember him? Was supposedly really good at Cardiff. Archie Griffin, obviously full Wales international. James Fender,
who came on for Ben Carter.
Yeah, Ben Carter seems like he's been around for years, though.
Yeah, I think because he won his first cap early PVAC when he was 20, and early PVAC is like that's a depressing period.
Brad Roderick, he's in there. Yeah. He plays for Aberafon now and Swansea University. But then if you look at the Italy team, you're like, hello.
It's basically the team that played at the weekend.
Gianmarco Lucchesi at hooker, Zambonin at Favoretto, actually. He's Zuliani at 7, Lorenzo Canoni at 8, Pembrokeshire farmer Stephen Varney at 9.
Netflix star.
Paolo Garbisi, Federico Mori.
Jacopo Trula's also got caps. Fullback.
Yeah, Trula.
Albanese on the bench. Yeah, Albanese.
Yeah. Does Pinozo have caps?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think he does.
But
why does the name Nathaniel Pinozo stick out to me?
Just a good name. it's a ridiculously strong Italy team. And at the time, you're like, oh, it's a shame Wales have lost to Italy for the home for the first time. And now you're looking like, no, that's the Italy team for a decade. Like that's a really, really good team against a pretty decent Welsh team. Especially for the regional players versus lots of test players in that Italy team.
So essentially, Luke Scully re-signing led us down a rabbit hole of Wales under-20s teams, which we might revisit one day because that's a really fun topic and our favourite form of the Wales team. Behind Cecilio Tuipulotu. Then we also had Garen Phillips re-signed. So Garen has made 19 appearances, also had a loan spell at Cornish Pirates like James Fender. Really young for a prop, so at 22. Has had horrific injury woes. Hopefully he sort of gets over that now because he's really strong carrier. I think he needs that solid season, just been injury-free, working with Duncan. Yeah. And then I think you genuinely have like a really solid prop on your hands. It was really unlucky that he never got a really big under-20s career because of COVID. So yes, was he in the same under-20 setup as like Dav Jenkins or
that? Oh, he might have played in 2020, which was similar to what Harry Deves was in.
Oh, yeah.
Shout.
I think that would be right. And so that, like you just said, it's quite similar to Scully. I don't think people realise how young Garen Phillips actually was.
And, a couple of people said that to me.
He made his debut.
Zebra.
The first full season of Toby Booth era, where he got he came off the bench, then he got knocked out, which was quite alarming.
Within 2 minutes of his debut, and then he played in that really awful but really sort of funny game up in Glasgow, and he had an absolute stormer.
I think he made like a line break in like the first few minutes, and you're thinking, where's this prop come from? And then won a really underrated turnover away in Leinster before like the Dewi Lake one, which like seals the deal.
Yeah,
it's eerily similar to where it was on the actual field as well. And you just see him win the turnover, you're thinking, oh, that's encouraging. It kind of, I think that was the turnover, which is the build up to the Owen Watkin try, but someone could easily correct me on that.
Are you writing your dissertation on that game?
No, because dissertation doesn't kick in for me until next year.
So, when searching for Garen Phillips, I stumbled across a Mark Orders article.
Oh, hello. So what's the intro?
It's not about.
It's 7 paragraphs long.
Do you want me to tell you the first paragraph?
Yeah.
Yes, then you're a journalism student, right? You'd get marked down on this now. The old adage tells us that maturity arrives when you realise the volume switch in a CD player turns to the left as well as the right. Do you know what the actual article is about?
Oh, okay. It'll be something about like Lewis Rees-Zammit's left elbow being really good or something. It won't be in any way relevant, and that's the beauty of Mark Order's writing. I love it.
It's about the exciting and hugely talented new Welsh rugby players to light up the game in 2022. And I want to play a quick game of are they still good? So the first one was Jacob Beetham.
Yeah,
still good. Maybe a bit overshadowed by Cam Winnett at the minute, which is fair enough. But
been training with Wales this Six Nations.
Yeah, Harry Deves.
Great, fantastic, the best.
Good player. Yeah, hates Tories. Archie Hughes. Player. Probably comfortably second best 9 at Scarlets. Joe Peard. Oh, it never really worked for Joe Peard, did it?
I saw his name somewhere the other day. I can't remember where he's playing at now.
I think it's in England.
I think he's a Jersey, I want to say.
He's struggling at Jersey.
Oh, God, yeah, no, I think he was at Jersey, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like he was, of course.
He's struggling at Jersey right now.
Topless, you could say.
Yeah. Dan John. Oh, God.
Yeah, the winger.
Play for Exeter.
He was at Exeter. Theo Cabango. Do you remember him?
Oh, he's at Cornish Pirates now. Yeah.
Theo Cabango. Really unlucky with injury. Very good player, though. Cam Winnett.
Oh, hello.
Solid.
Look, I've had Irish people all weekend saying he's not that good to me. So That is the sign of a truly great Welsh player.
So, Yeston, you could tell which game happened just before this article. So this is Garen Phillips' one. So he has just gone out on loan to Cornish Pirates with his region well stocked at Loosehead. This is where we had Gareth Thomas, Nicky and Rodri. But Phillips is a player for the future, one who achieves turnovers, scrummages solidly, and has a win in Leinster on his CV.
Yes.
There's nothing untrue about that. That's just entirely correct.
Dav Jenkins, he's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah, he's all right.
Doing okay.
Carwyn Tuapolotu.
Yeah, no, he's all right. He's solid enough.
Good,
he's a player.
Yeah.
Ben Burnell.
Oh, yeah.
I watch him most weeks, so he's a good player.
Good player. Luke Davis of the Scarlets.
Boo.
I wonder where he's at now.
Yeah. Follow your heart, Luke.
It's not a Mark Orders thing if they don't mention his family, because it's the cousin of Kieran Hardy.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Harry Williams had a horrific injury. He's had another ACL injury.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 9 and 10, which is weird.
Johan Evans.
Former Cardiff centre. I don't know if he's still there now.
Oh, right.
Mason Grady.
Yeah,
doing all right.
Okay. Yeah. Did you know he played basketball for the Rhondda Rebels?
So did Thomas Williams. That never comes up.
Do you know what? It never comes up anymore, but I completely forgot that Corey Allen was his older brother.
Yeah.
Because it used to be brought up all the time.
It's one of these things where, like, Corey Allen came through and he was quick, and then he lost all of that pace over, there's a number of injuries in the middle. But it makes me wonder sometimes when I look at Mason Grady, is he going to reach like 28 and have no pace anymore like his brother did?
The streets will never forget the hat-trick against Uruguay.
Mate, I was there, one of the proudest days of my life. I got to see Felipe Bachesi kick 3 penalties and Corey Allen score 2 tries, my 2 favourite players.
Yesterday, a man from your neck of the woods, Ollie Burrows.
Yeah, he's out in Exeter now. Is he still there? I can't remember. He went out to Exeter. I remember that.
He went out to university. He's a Nice Athletic boy. Evan Daniel.
He has played 2 games for Exeter this season, Ollie Burrows.
Okay. Evan Daniel.
He's doing okay at Cardiff, I believe.
4th choice hooker at Cardiff. Alex Mann.
Yeah. Try machine.
Mm-hmm. Joe Hawkins.
What happened to him?
Yeah, I think he retired. Ironically, he spends more time in Pontardawe now than he does actual Exeter. Jack Lloyd, brother of Johan.
Oh, of course.
Now at Newport.
Right. Was at Bristol briefly.
Yeah, he was at Bristol with his brother, yeah. And then there's a bit at the end with... so this was the period where Chris Chinzer was like Jesus, quite literally.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's a little caveat at the bottom. Those aged 20 or under already capped by Pivac, and it's Chris Chinzer, Johan Lloyd, Zammit, and Ben Carter.
Wow. There's one of those in the current squad?
Yeah, one of them's in the NFL. Yeah. One of them's just coming back from a broken foot. One of them's Ben Carter,
who was injured.
Yeah, who was at one point named like the next Aaron Wynne Jones. I remember. So Garen Phillips, guys, good player.
But yeah, Garen Phillips and Hugh Sutton. No, not Hugh Sutton. Sorry, and Luke Scully. I think there was I've seen a lot of talk around this being: does Luke Scully signing a new contract mean he's off? Jack Walsh is off or Williams is off?
Quickly about that.
Yeah,
actually.
And same with Garen Phillips being: does it mean Nicky Smith's off?
Yeah.
I don't think either are the case. I think this is holding what depth they've got. I think it's probably going to be easier for this Ospreys team for Booth to keep hold of players than it is to sign in new players, because they probably don't have the money to draw people over and attract, new people. But everyone, you read all of the statements of all the players that have signed new contracts. All of them talk about how much they love the environment and how much they want to stay there. And that probably counts for a lot. And you can probably, on that goodwill, get people slightly below the asking price, you perhaps signing them, elsewhere. And signing someone like Garen Phillips, who's played, 20-ish games as a 23-year-old prop, which he probably wouldn't have got at most other clubs. He's going to want to stay there. He's going to stick around. Likewise, Luke Scully's bounced around a lot of clubs. He's probably quite settled here. There's a great bit in the the press release where Booth says, you know, he knows what we want of him. He's getting better and better at that role, all his roles in the week. It does sound a little bit like he's saying he's really good at holding tackle bags, but it clearly, you know, it makes it clear that like they know he's a player that can fit in several positions. Booth talked a lot in press conferences about, you know, wanting to be able to play, do 15v15 training where people are in the right positions. Having someone that versatile is really useful. And he is, you know, very, very solid, currently third or fourth choice, which is really like invaluable with the squad size at the minute and everything cutting down. I think both of them are very, very good young players who can really have the chance to kick on and are really useful squad options at the moment.
Yes, then there's rumours going around that Luke Scully could be off to the Cheetahs on a loan for the Currie Cup. Good choice, do you think, to send out?
I think any one of these younger players would be a good option to send out to the Currie Cup. One for experience, but knowing the Ospreys, they'd send someone out and then have an immediate injury crisis in that position. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, for example, if Cam Jones, the prop, went out there, which is another name which has been floating around the old social media groups, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went out there and the Ospreys just lost all loose heads everywhere. And but yeah, you know, it's going to be interesting to see who does go out there, if they go out there with the short squads. But yeah, if Scully does go, I think it's a good opportunity for him to maybe even if he plays 13 like he did against Benetton or plays at 10, it's it's a good learning curve, especially out in the Cheetahs when you've got someone like Ruan Pina who's just probably still playing knowing him, but
he's
yeah,
no coach.
Is he?
He's taken over as coach, I'm pretty sure, with Franz Stein as the director of rugby.
Yeah.
Well, what more do you want as a fly half to be coached by those two?
Yeah, if Luke Scully doesn't come back with like 110% kicking percentage, it's a fucking trip wasted.
Though also, if he doesn't come back, I'd get it.
Yeah, fair.
Is that the weather and Franz Stein? Yeah, right. No, but Booth talked about Dan Edwards potentially going over, and you suspect that has changed over the last month or so.
But that sort of like, I think that was a case of, at the start of the season, we very much knew that Owen and Jack were going to be 1 and 2. And you rely on Nagy having a full season at fullback with Hopkins as your backup. Plans changed because of injury. Right? We had a massive injury crisis. And then you sort of do have Dan Edwards' sort of coming of age moment where you're like, oh shit, this guy actually might be quite good. Oh, actually, we knew he was good, but his progress has been accelerated.
Yeah.
Hugely. It's like, it's just like finding that diamond in the rough, and it's like playing a young Justin Tipuric, and then you're like, oh shit, this guy's now starting 7 for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Or like James Fender, right? James Fender was probably, he was on loan at Cornish Pirates, came back as sort of didn't have that, and then all of a sudden James Fender is ridiculously, probably playing above where he should be before his injury. Like, let's not beat around the bush, right? He was going to be in that Wales squad.
Yeah.
Like, you could not have ignored him. So there is that reactionary thing where the thing is with Scully, yes, he's only played 8 times, right? But he understands his role. He's, like you said, Robbie, he's not been at clubs long enough for him to be settled and be a system player. Like, I watch a lot of American football, right? You have system players who are there to make sure that game plan runs perfectly. And Scully is that. Like, he comes on in the 60th minute, will kick you penalty. He's a really good goal kicker.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at his clips that they post, all his kicks are like banging them from the touchline. He's properly good. And we saw at that Benetton game, he's comfortable in that backline wherever you put him. Like, he was coming up against Fekitoa, he could have easily crumbled there, and he actually probably came out of that as with a bit of credit in the bank. So it's same with Garen Phillips. If he gets over that injury problem, he's that perfect third choice prop where if we do keep a hold of Nicky and Gareth, he can play enough games, giving him the development that he needs. But then also, like you said, Toby says, improving day on day. Yeah. So it's a good thing ultimately, and I don't think people have been quite negative around certain things. They're not big names or they're not new signings and things like that, which is
Well,
completely understandable. But they are just as important to the squad.
yeah. Well, so they held all of these signings for weeks in which we've had games. These have sort of been done for a while, a lot of these signings, and they've been held until the break weeks in the Six Nations. When they have games, they've got more attention on the Ospreys. They managed to build a bit of hype, got a bit of goodwill going from fans towards the club, but also from within the club. It's all being shared around. You look at the Instagram, all the social media, all the players are liking all the videos that are coming out, which have all been great across the board as well. I wonder whether once we get back beyond the Six Nations, as we get towards perhaps the Sale game, the bigger names will be the ones they're dropping. If they're going to keep doing this, they're going to keep pushing this. That's me in total conspiracy theorist mode. But also, the players that we know are out of contract next season, a lot of the bigger names aren't, so fingers crossed, we don't know for certain, but like not expecting Jack Morgan or Dewi Lake to be out of contract. Alex Cuthbert is out of contract and Jack Walsh is out of contract, which are probably the biggest names there. We don't know how long Tipurick's contract is. I suppose the other one. James Fender, I think, is out of contract as well. Which would be
the rumours are James Fender's signed a new deal though.
Okay. Which would be an important one to keep.
The rumour that went around, and I can't tell you that how true this is that the Scarlets approached James Fender. Again, this is a rumour, the Scarlets approached him
to be head coach.
To be fucking do a worse job. He said no and has signed a new deal with the Ospreys. Personally, I don't think there was. If James Fender was to leave, it would be to go somewhere big. No offense to Scarlets, but he's not going across. He's going up. Like he has a ceiling. But ultimately, I think he has Wales aspirations, and he I don't think he could be away from his mum.
You wouldn't know what's going on Reddit.
Friend. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that Fender is the one. I really want Walsh to sign a new contract as well.
Me
too. We know Booth likes having a veteran 10. That's very much like a Booth thing. Like you see, the first thing he did was bring in Myler. Like Josh Thomas, Dan Edwards. You're going to learn Joe Hawkins. You're going to learn off Stephen Myler. That's what he's have as Owen at the minute.
A really interesting moment at the press conference today where he was asked directly, "Would you think about bringing back Gareth Anscombe, seeing as he's at a club looking to train, potentially play games?" And he just point blank said no. So we're very happy with Owen Williams as that kind of experienced 10 role, and then having Jack and Dan as our other 10s, which is an interesting point just on that. Yeah,
we've made this point before that the senior players, right, the elder statesmen, often if they're not playing, they don't sit in with the boys in the crowd. They're in the coaching box. Like Owen Williams was in that coaching box for the Ulster game. So this is, I think this is what Booth likes. He surrounds himself with that sort of environment. So I'm hopeful we'll keep a hold of Jack. Owen's still under contract. So should we quickly talk about the Wales game and then get onto proper rugby?
I say proper.
Yeah, proper rugby, not the part-time rugby.
Oh, so God, what is it? I don't even know. There are only 6 of them. That's a weird number.
Yeah. From an Ospreys point of view, how do you think our boys went yesterday?
I thought they went okay. Obviously, the alarming thing was the Wales scrum, which went backwards. Obviously, there's been a whole lot of debate about that scrum and one particular person, but I don't really want to delve into that on here. But outside of that, I thought they went rather okay. I thought, Gareth Thomas brings a chop tackle every now and then, which is quite nice and sets up a turnover for Tommy Raffle. I thought Adam Beard had a quietly good game. Just did his business and just, all right, Byrne did get one up on him in one of the crucial moments of the second half, but he's Tiger Byrne, for crying out loud. He's very good at rugby. And then I thought George North was good as well. He looked useful with ball in hand, looking to make meters and trying to brush off defenders. And yeah, I thought all three went well, and if they continue on that form, the three that are out there, it would have been a little bit nicer if Owen Watkin came back to have a bit of game time in the next couple of weeks, but that's not my decision. That's Warren Gatland's decision. And if those three can hit form, like that when they come back, it's nothing but a positive.
Absolutely. I thought Adam Beard was fantastic. Yeah, I thought it was like quietly really good game, and North defended really well.
So
yeah,
Adam
really
Beard
solid performances.
stats wise, 13 from 13, 3 dominant hits, which a lot of the comments around Beard has been around his physicality, right? A lot of people say he just stands there and points, or he had a really good week training, so of course he's going to play. Then goes post 13 tackles in, what is it, 58 minutes or something like that?
He 54 minutes he played.
54 minutes with 3 dominant hits. And I said this on the Wrap pod. I get what you mean, what people mean when you say you bring Rowlands on and he brings that dynamic carry, right? But I do feel that when you take all 3 second rows for Wales at the minute have a specific role. So Dav Jenkins is there to hit rucks. That sort of Ian Goff role. He's hit so many rucks and
most
make
rucks
his
of anyone in
tackles.
the championship.
Yeah. So in that Ian Goff mold, and I think Gatland sees that in him a lot. Then you've got Adam Beard, who's there for his line-out stuff, but then also just that in the tight. Like, he's so good in the tight. That's where his tackles come from. And then they used him really well. They used him in that 10 channel, or that just between that 10 and the first receiver channel. And that's where the dominant hits come from. That's where the 13 tackles come from. And then you've got Rowlands, who's there to come on and carry. But I think when you take Beard off, you do lose that sort of tightness around that ruck area. And in D,
really telling how Wales's line-out has deteriorated every game when Adam Beard's come off. And it's people are pointing this to, because he doesn't necessarily take a lot of line-outs himself. He's one of the best line-out callers out there. I think I made this point in this podcast before, but like one of the interesting things about my job is it's like I've now with the channel reached a level where I don't like to I know there's enough people that watch it, and there's a weird trend of like a lot of young players came through having watched stuff I've done. So I never like to break people, whatever. But like David Jenkins is a fantastic player. He's doing really well, defensively around the park. All the technical skills are great. The one area he really needs to work on for me is his line-out calling. He'll often call a lot to himself, and he often makes a lot of kind of predictable calls. It was something I almost did a bit on in the World Cup, and then it felt weirdly harsh to pick on, especially when Wales was doing well. We've seen when he's taken over the calling from Beard, Wales' line-out percentage is dropping. I don't know.
We'll look at the end of the England game.
Yeah.
Off that England defensive line-out, and he calls weirdly to the middle, and England just got to the front. Yeah.
It's the one area of his game that really needs to work. And when he gets there, it'll be fantastic. And it's easy to forget he's 22. So obviously it'll come on. But yeah, it's like Beard is such a valuable piece for this Wales team. And you see a lot of people, when Sean Holly's off picking like Barry John to play at 10 and Steve Fenwick at 12 for his fancy team, a lot of those, a lot of pundits drop Adam Beard without considering what you're losing, especially with Alex Mann as a much shorter flanker than the average. You kind of need that stability in the line out there as well.
So there's also, why are we pretending that Wales have thrown to their second row in the line out for years? Yeah. They haven't.
Yeah.
Their main source of line out ball from about 2012 to whenever Justin Tipuric retired was Justin Tipuric.
Yeah.
He was their main jumper, and now Aaron Wainwright is. Being a line-out jumper isn't about being the tallest, right? It's about who can get up the quickest. And that's Aaron Wainwright. Okay? You come down, then you've got a big second row pushing you. Where, and then, so it's not necessarily about who is the tallest guy. It's about who's going to get up the quickest and secure the ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and look, I wax lyrical about Gareth Thomas all the time. Yesterday mentioned that chop tackle as just being it's his USP. It is like, it's such a difference maker.
The infamous kind of 7-minute long passage of play that took place where he lost his boot. So he gets injured like 30 seconds in, gets back up from his injury, loses his boot. Andrew Porter chucks it to the other side of the field, and he plays on for like 5 continuous minutes without a boot.
He's just ridiculous. But like, I can't keep waxing the point as well. He was 4th choice prop when Toby Booth came in. Like, I remember him being in like the shitty European squads in the Alan Clark era. With he was like best mates with Sam Underhill, like when he first came to the club and things like that. And then like Booth has clearly seen that this man is strong as an ox, right? He scrummages he's probably less technical scrummages. He's more raw power than technical scrummaging than someone like Nicky. But then his defense, I've never seen a prop with better tackle discipline than anything. And you're like, you can see why he's Wales' number 1. Yeah. And then with George North, I think that was his best game for Wales in a good while. I thought he was brilliant both sides of the ball. You know, look, it's a young Wales team. It'll come, like, from an Ospreys point of view, we've got 3 solid starters who I can't see being dropped unless you have like a proper team shake-up. Like, the only way Beard's getting dropped is through injury. Same with Gareth Thomas. Same with North, unless they decide like to put Joe Roberts in for the Italy game.
Or Mason Grady.
But yeah, so cool. Should we talk about Edinburgh away?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about time we got back to the proper rugby, I suppose.
Proper rugby. Yes, Edinburgh have been talking a lot of shit, haven't they?
That's an interesting question, which I wasn't really expecting. But they've won 7 out of 10 games. I've only lost to Leinster, Benton, and Glasgow. 2 of those were away. And all of a sudden, they're coming out with some really interesting comments this week. Ben Healy suggests that the league is very, very close, which, in fairness, it is quite close. Yeah. There's not much separating 4th and 10th. But how long has Ben Healy been watching rugby is my question.
This was fucking brilliant. I was reading this on the train, pissing myself. So for those who don't know, Healy, the player bit of the press conference. So he's quoted as saying, this is from Edinburgh themselves, Healy has been the fulcrum of the capital backline so far. Also, that is the worst sentence I've ever heard in my life. Sounds like a credit card company.
That's gloriously wanky. I love it.
Leading the league in points scored and meters kicked. And will look to continue his playmaking role under the Friday night lights. Anyway, so we're very confident with top 8 place. We just need to take it 1 game at a time and make sure we get wins. And then if bonus points present themselves, we take them. So for reference, they've only had 1 try bonus point and 1 losing bonus point all season. But I don't remember the league being this tight at all. I remember growing up, it's been called multiple different things. The Pro 14, the Pro 12, the Rabo, the Celtic League. And it was often viewed as not very competitive. By the way he says the Rabo reminds me of when Stuart Lancaster called
the Autumn International,
the QBEs.
A defining rugby moment.
It was often
no Magnus League glove.
Yeah, and it was often viewed as not very competitive. You had the Irish teams, Scarlets and Glasgow, won it, but it wasn't very competitive. What the fuck? We've won 4 of them, Ben.
I didn't read that bit. Oh, I missed that.
Who's read it the second most of anyone? Who's won it this? I ask you that question, Ben, and you will find it on your fixture list for next weekend.
Oh, and it's just like, fair play, Scarlets won it most recently. I'll give them that.
Sure.
Glasgow won it and then obviously you've had the Irish teams as well. But 4 times, Ben. 4.
Scarlets have been competitive twice.
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away. They were second once and they won it once. That's scrap. Oh, I suppose no. They won it in like 2004, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And then
good on you.
The particularly prick comment at the end was like, whereas now, particularly with South African teams coming in, it's so competitive. You You have the Ospreys ahead of the 3 Irish provinces, which hasn't happened for a while. Like, fuck off, Ben.
It happened like week 2 of the season last year when we were top for a moment.
Look, Patricia Vieira, right?
Mm.
You're great. You're one of the best out there. But come get your man. He does not respect rugby heritage, right? If when they play Edinburgh, when they play Cardiff, right, he says, I remember when the Blues won in Bilbao in 2018, but then it says like, oh, but they're Cardiff now. I will respect him, but the disrespect, like we've won it, is like fair enough. If we'd won it once, right, but 4 times, Ben.
The thing is, we do get a very clear answer to when he started watching rugby, which is 2013. Which
in Glasgow, wasn't it?
Well, no. So Leinster, it's 2013 onwards. Leinster, Glasgow, Connacht, Scarlets, Leinster, Stormers, Munster. Nope. So it is, it's the Irish, all the Irish teams except for Ulster. Sorry, Dan McFarlane, R.I.P. But then before that, right, it's like Ospreys, Munster, Ospreys, Ulster, all bloody before that. Look, I don't know. The real thing was Sean Everett coming out and saying, "Yeah, this is a bonus point we're targeting here."
Look,
after last season's performance, maybe
fair enough. But also, Sean Everett is the world's most boring man.
I was amazed by that. Like, I didn't realize I'd never heard him speak before, and suddenly, or at least never listened to it rather than just reading it. But he comes out there, and can you imagine him giving an inspirational, rousing team talk? Like, if he came out and tried to give like some movie team talk to raise them at halftime, get them back in the game, and he's just sort of, I think we should do some tackles, boys. Desperately dull, and yet at the same time going, I don't mean to be too mean, but at the same time being very like, yes, we're going for the bonus point. We want 9 points out of this block. We're intending to win comfortably, deny them a bonus point when we're for the sheer like confidence of Edinburgh. Weirdly reassures me because it's the same attitude Ulster seemed to be going into the last game with. And they spent a lot of time kicking for the corner, turning down kickable points, and lost the game by 2 points at the end.
Yeah, really interesting that everyone's coming out and saying all this. Maybe just Sean Everett just watched last season's game on repeat, which fair enough because Darcy Graham was brilliant and
he was unplayable that bit.
Emiliano Buffelli was pretty good as well that evening, if I remember correctly. And Dave Cherry scored a try. So that if you put those 3 together, it's like, this is why we're gonna beat the Ospreys because this happened last season. But yeah, it kind of puts a little bit of spice into it, a bit of need into it. So if the Ospreys go full English rugby and celebrate the first scrum penalty, I really wouldn't blame them.
No, they're not gone.
If we're doing a Ben Earl, it's the non-straight line now.
I want the Harry Deeves to like the full Uncle Bryn, like surprise, like that sort. Do you want to? I want to quickly just tangent for a second. Do you want to play a game of random Ospreys memories coming up on my Facebook?
I'd love to.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So 28th of February 2016. What happened in Ospreys law?
2016, 28th of February 2016.
2016.
Oh, would that be us getting because that's February, so we made Six Nations. Because that was the season wasn't the year we were really good under Steve Tandy.
Yes.
And then it sort of fell apart right at the end.
Yeah, and then we were terrible the next season. Yeah. We were really good, qualified for the Champions Cup, and then we're terrible in the next season.
Yeah. So February in that season.
I'm gonna Can I go for a guess?
Yeah.
You've been a 20-all draw against Glasgow with JJ Engelbrecht making his debut.
No, but it is centre related.
Did we? So was it Edinburgh related? Was it us beating Edinburgh?
No, it's not Edinburgh related. It's centre related.
Centre related.
The announcement of JJ Engelbrecht joining the Ospreys.
No, so he was still at the Ospreys at this point. He played his one game.
Was this his injury? His injury that ruled him out for the season?
I'll put you on your misery. We signed And this is how bad our comms were back then. This is in all caps, right? Breaking news: Ospreys confirmed signing of Crusader centre Kieran Fonotia on a 2-year deal from next season. So this is when the man with the squarest head signed for the Ospreys.
Extraordinary. This is the third time Kieran Fonotia has come up in my day today. But
such is what I know.
such is life. Such is the odd job that I've fallen into.
Back to Edinburgh. They've had 7 Scottish players released.
Yeah.
So they are WP Nell, Javen Sebastian, boo, Sam Skinner, Glenn Young, Ali Price, Ben Healy, Harry Patterson, plus Hamish Watson, who is available after recovering from injury.
Which
the only one I think is a doubt, by the way, is WP Nell, who's I think they said is 50-50.
Yeah. Had a knock, which is why he's released back to Edinburgh. But it is the kind of spine right through their team. That's a really crucial list of players. They've got 2 second rows. They've got both halfbacks back in, a fullback. It's kind of the typical, spine of your team back in crucial positions, which is significant for them. And probably why they're so confident, why they're sure this is going to be an absolute record win. It's going to be 80 odd points, I think. I think they are convinced the Ospreys don't want it. And boy, will we show them how much they want it. But no, it's a real boost for Edinburgh. And even though Wales have released no players whatsoever, never mind any just back to the Ospreys, Owen Watkin being the one that kind of would have come up, there would have been contention having not played for a few weeks. I still think there is a squad there that can go out and push them hard.
Yes, obviously going to be quite tricky, when you see one team's got 7 internationals back and you've got nobody back, you're thinking, oh, that's nice. But yeah, I think especially the character of this squad at the moment, going away to the Lions and winning, coming back against Ulster and winning, still somewhat of something there. And obviously there's still some pretty experienced players in the squad. You got someone like Tipbrick, someone like Cuthbert, who would probably have more than the rest of the squad combined.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a task which was tricky enough, made a little bit more trickier. But you still got that slight bit of confidence in thinking they'll put up a good performance.
But I remember at the start of the season thinking we had, I think it was 5 or 6 games that were basically unwinnable. The 3 games in South Africa, then Connaught, Leinster, and Edinburgh away. I'm feeling we kind of had no chance in those. And it's funny because I do not feel that way now. I don't feel any of those games after the way that Lions game went and the way this team's been playing. I don't feel there's any game that is unwinnable for this side at all.
So looking at their last run of games, so they just scraped to a win versus Zebra.
Yeah.
Dave Cherry trying the 72nd minute. Where we've come up against Edinburgh before, so obviously I'm going to take out the game up there because we were just not at the races there at all. So I look back at the one back at the Swansea.com stadium where the less talked about charge down from a conversion happened.
Arguably the better charge down as well, because that the game completely.
That game was hateful, by the way. That was honestly one of the worst games of professional rugby I'd ever watched. I loved every second of it.
I just realised who was in the middle for that game as well.
Was it Andrea Piardi?
I think it was. I think I remember you messaging me after the game, talking about him.
So that game, I remember. What struck me about Edinburgh is they're not afraid to keep on their front row. Because Bowen Ventus got a hat trick that game.
Yeah.
But then they've got, so if you look at their squad from that last game, right? So that game against Zebra. So it was Bowen Ventus, Dave Cherry, WP Nell, very good front row. But then you look at their replacement front row, Patrick Harrison, made up player, Lewins Bruin, definitely a made up player. and Javen Sebastian, who play for the Scarlets. So it's not confident. And when you've got a pack like ours, which is eking penalties out of, like, you basically reduce Marty Moore to tears, you know, that's got to be scary. But then you look, that pack is scary for a Six Nations team, like a team that's got. So last week, Marshall Sykes, Glenn Young, very good. Back row of Jamie Ritchie, Hamish Watson, and Bill Matter.
Which is ridiculous. Jamie Ritchie hasn't been released this week, but you're still a very decent back row.
That's ridiculous. And then you've got Ali Price, Ben Healy, James Lang, and Matt Curry.
Both good players.
Yeah, I'm big. Harry Patterson, who's 12. Christine, who's, I'm sorry, presents Homes Under the Hammer as far as I'm concerned. And Emiliano Buffelli.
See, Christine's a great addition to my ongoing quest for a team of people with girls' names.
Yeah, Christine. Oh, but then you've got like the backs on the bench. So Ben Velicott, Mark Bennett, Nathan Sweeney is a very good
so
sort of backs bench.
Everett did say Mark Bennett is going to start because it's his 100th appearance for Edinburgh. So we know he's slotting into 13, most likely. Could play 12, but most likely 13 with, you'd imagine, James Lang. Which, I don't know, like the whole vibe of the Edinburgh team, the back row is incredible, especially for a mid-Six Nations back row.
I'd say the full front, the all 80s is amazing.
Yeah. If they keep WP Nell out as well, I think that if Nell doesn't make it and it's Jevon Sebastian in a tight head instead, I think we've got something to go after. If it's Nell, we're probably looking at parity. I think he's a very good scrummager, VP Nell. Where Jevon Sebastian, look, we've seen, Nicky Smith get under and get through before. It'd be a real area to target because I feel that is what we need. I think it's a struggle last year. As I remember, my main memory of that game in Edinburgh, which I've repressed, was the curry I was eating in a pub in Cardiff at the time with my friend Adam from Linebreak Rugby, who was watching. We were like sat at one table in the middle, and on one screen there was the Ospreys game on, and the other there was Cardiff, and both of us were getting battered, and both of us were miserably eating curries in silence. It was one of the best trips to the pub you'll ever have. But yeah, as I remember, the scrum was a struggle that day. If you can turn that around and get on top, I think that could be really big. And again, the confidence the team will have after the Ulster game and the belief and that kind of, as we've seen countless times, that not knowing how to lose, not knowing when to give in, feels like the sort of thing that will potentially come back to bite them. Or not come back to bite them, sorry, that will potentially come through and be really important.
So the last game obviously ended 45-21 to Edinburgh. The game before was at the Ospreys 23-19. And then the game before that was Toby Booth's first ever game, the 3rd of October 2020, where we won 25-10. So that was still a Pro 14. Jesus Christ. God. So, as a group going up, right? There is that. There is that. I think we're going up now with, and I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm saying, but we're going up with confidence that we can go there and not have a repeat of last year, but not. I say make a good account of ourselves. Like we're there on merit. We're not. We're there because we're competitive and we can win this game. Like if I'm someone like Harry Deeves or another young person like Ben Warren in that squad, I'm looking at my opposite man as like, I'm going to fucking smash you. Or I know I'm equally as good as you because I'm in an environment where we are enjoying our rugby. And you're just like, yeah, cool, you've had 7 players released. Great. I'm in the form of my life right now. Yeah. Harry Deeves, I loved on Instagram, posted that play with my hero, and it's just a photo of his jersey next to Tippericks and changing room. Like we're at that point now where we've all grown up watching Justin Tipperick, right? He's collectively probably our favourite player, and the players that are playing with him now also did that, and they're a hero. So that boost you have, like Cuthbert mentioned his press conference today, that Tom Florence is just a massive student of the game and just sits there asking him questions after questions.
Yeah.
And I thought the South African lads did really well last week, and they only did that on one training session. Same with Cuthbert; they've had a full week now, and you just go out and you're like, why the fuck not? Why shouldn't we be able to go up there and get a result? Like, I'm not looking for a bonus point. I'm not looking for tries. I'm just looking for the win. I'll take a 6-3, 2 Jack Walsh penalties.
Another Dan Edwards last minute drop goal.
I fucking hope not.
No, I take it. I'd love this to be a weekly thing.
So yeah, I think you're right, Robbie, in that I think we go for the scrum.
Yeah.
If Jam Sebastian will attack that. I still think we'll attack it with Nel there. I think we're confident enough that we're like, yeah, fuck it. I think Tim, do you remember in that game at home, I think we had scrum dominance. Oh no, it was Piardi ref, and so he probably sent us all off, didn't he?
Anything goes. I can't really remember. I remember Nicky Smith playing. Obviously, Brian Venter stole the headlines for scoring a hat trick, didn't he? Which is kind of greedy of him because the Ospreys came back and played rather well.
They had that beautiful Sam Parry, Morgan Morris. What's it called? Like trick play, Ted Lasso style.
Yeah, and Prothero scored a try that night, if I remember, off a Michael Collins offload, which is rather neat.
Yes, he did.
And I can't remember what happened in the scrum though.
Edinburgh were top of the league that night.
Yeah, they were. That was the big story about it. That the Ospreys had beaten top of the league, and it wasn't Leinster. So I think it was kind of like an even battle. I'd probably say up front.
As I remember, I think they were on top initially, and we wrestled our way back into it, which is very much the game in general. It was infamously Toby Booth cried at full time because it was on Ethan Phillips' birthday, and they kind of said very much they'd done it for him.
Oh my god, it was that, and it was Keelan Giles' birthday, and Toby Booth cried. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's brought back so many emotions for me now.
Yeah, but that was a huge game. That was from a Ospreys point of view, one of the standout games of the Toby Booth era. I think it was.
You did a big thread on that. I'm pretty sure, or not a thread, but you did a big tweet, and people were like, "Why are you getting emotional? You beat Edinburgh at home."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Well, no, you don't actually know what this means to our team."
Yeah. And coming from where they'd been 2 years earlier, and the style and the way they went about it, and the way they never gave up, and seeing Toby Booth so emotional at the full-time whistle, it really meant a lot. And I think there was quite a few of us that it really clicked for. That was the moment, I think, that the Booth era had been growing and growing and growing. And that was the moment it kind of solidified. And then you had, obviously last season, Montpellier and Leicester were kind of the moment I think it took another step up. And they kind of became historic days, things that stand out as all-time great Ospreys moments. But that one from where they'd been was kind of a miniature version of what we've seen since. In the same way I think the Ulster game last week was. I think that was one I'll talk about and I'll think of for years to come.
So just to give you an update on I'm watching the highlights of that Edinburgh game right now. It was a Lloyd Ashley yellow card for a trip.
Oh.
Well, that was quite a big call at the time as well, I think.
Bowen Venter obviously scored twice in the first half. Edinburgh were on top. I haven't really seen any scrums, but Edinburgh on top. Bill Matter was having a great day.
When doesn't he?
Yeah. But Bowen Venter scores a hat-trick in the first half, I'm pretty sure.
No, his second one came in the second half because the charge on Appens were after it.
Mm. Yeah, so Harry Deeves was brilliant that day. That was a big Harry Deeves standout moment, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He goes, should we name our squads?
Okay.
Because I think we're all very similar in the squad that we named.
Yeah, I think we're all looking at roughly the same team. And again, looking at social media a bit, I think people are broadly in agreement, which I expect Toby to then pick a completely different team now.
Yeah. So we all said Nicky Smith.
Yeah.
At prop. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious after he fucking dominated Marty Moore. Sam Parry.
Yeah.
Can't see it yet. and then Tommy Boter.
Yeah, it picks itself
and
really.
Unchanged front row. Second rows, yes, didn't talk to me.
I've completely forgotten who I picked. I'll have to go on the fly. Did I pick Satete and Davis together, or did I stick with Ratty in the row? Because that's like
I
the
think
three options you've got.
you went for Ratty. I
Yeah,
think we all went for Ratty and Satete, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we all kind of kept Rhys Davis onto the bench, didn't we?
Yeah.
As obviously it's his first game back, so just knowing Toby Booth, you might just stick him as 6, which would be
well. That did cross my mind, but I think Toby Booth does like to reward form.
Yeah.
So when you've got someone like Ratty, who I think has been playing really well, he's been so physical. Like he tops the carry charts and things like that. So I can't see him not having Ratty. And I thought Victor was really, really good last week. In just he was so physical. He comes onto the ball at such pace. So yeah, back row. Robbie, do you want to talk us through the back row? Because I think we all picked the same one.
Yeah, I think you're looking broadly the same. Deves and Tipperick staying in on the flanks. Tipperick at 7. Then 8, Morgan Morris is back, and I think he's the one you start of the returning contingent. Morgan Morse, Toby we've talked about last week, probably needs a bit of a rest. He's played a lot of rugby back to back right as he's breaking through. He's kind of gone from playing like his second and third game, and that's rolled on to him now being at 10-ish. Having played for the under-20s, well, he hasn't had the break some of the others have. He was rested last week in Dublin for the under-20s, but I suspect he may be on the bench instead of starting. Give Morgan Morris a chance to run out, and see how he goes. Deserving in A.
Yeah, I think we all looked. I think we all said the same.
Yeah.
I just think Morgan Morris as a leader as well, but just giving Morgan Morris that break. I don't even think he plays this one, if I'm honest. I think he just doesn't need that. He's like, I think he's still the top tackler in the under-26 Nations, and he didn't play the last game. Like that's how mental that he worked.
Yeah. He's
so
a ridiculous talent, and you need to manage him properly. You can't just burn him out.
And you can say what you want about Toby Booth, right? He knows how to handle young players. That's his bread and butter. So 9 and 10. So I think we all didn't pick a 9 at all. He's that confident. So I think we all went for Ruben, and we all went for Dan Edwards. I think it's very much not the game to have Luke Davis and Dan Edwards. There's, I think, when you have that Lions atmosphere, when it's 30 degrees, hard track, that's the game you can have that sort of type of play. You have that Luke Davis live wire or Cameron Jones live wire. But having Ruben, who kicked really well in that Ulster game, and I'll bring that up again, like his choice of kicking has got so much better. So yeah, I can sort of see Ruben starting, and then Dan Edwards just to reward form again.
Yeah. The weather forecast for Friday in Edinburgh is horrendously rainy. They're looking at sleet. They're looking at horrible rain.
This comes on to my winger pick.
Yeah.
Because I actually know he's starting because he said it in the press conference. So on the wings, and I've gone for Cuthbert, Giles, and then Walsh at fullback. I think because of the weather, you want 2 good kickers. So you have that in Walsh and Edwards. And then you want to put pressure on Harry Patterson, Emilio Buffelli, and Christine, the X Factor auditionist, who got a weird record label deal. So yeah, I think so. Immediately on that last Sunday game, we saw Cuthbert come on. Ruben shortens up the box kicks, and Cuthbert goes up to compete, and all of a sudden, Ethan McElroy's having a bad day, or Will Addison's having a bad day. So I think that's what you're going to get in this weather conditions.
There is a question mark over whether you go for Hopkins as more of a specialist fullback on a wet weather day.
Is he fit?
But I don't. Yeah, that's the question, I suppose.
Yeston, was he in the warm up? Do you remember?
Who are we on about? Sorry.
Yeston Hopkins,
This
the other
wee boy.
Yeston.
Yeah. No, not that one.
I can't remember. Went to the same school as well. I
Oh,
can't
wow.
remember. I'll have to rack my brains now. I can't remember seeing him. I think
if he isn't, Walsh picks himself, I guess, and
I could be awfully wrong in that, but I can't recall seeing him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very much thinking we're gonna have Jack Walsh back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that the one thing I'm worried about is Ben Healy.
That's it, isn't it?
It's just that boot on him is ridiculous. Edinburgh, I'm not too worried. And in the centres, then I think it's Keith and Bosch. I don't think, unless Don Morris is fit, but Toby didn't say anything. There's no other centres we sort of have to put in. So I think you got Keith and Bosch. Ulster didn't get a single clean line break against us.
She's incredible.
And Edinburgh's backs haven't been firing that much. Like their tries last week came from prop and hooker. They're not scoring bonus points. So I'm not worried about James Lang punching holes in the midfield as much as I should be.
I am now you said that. I get
wary of it.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried to the point where if it happens on the day, I'll be like, right, okay, now I'm worried. But
sure,
leading up to it, I was more worried about an Ulster player, your Balakoons and all right, McCloskey didn't want it, or your Stockdales, didn't want it, but on their day, you could easily break that line, but they didn't. And that's really encouraging. So I think as a starting lineup, I think we're all in agreement of, so Nicky, Sam, Tom, Victor Sexbom and James Ratty,
Steve Tips Morris,
Ruben, Dan Edwards, Keith and Bosch, Cathy, Gilo, and then Walshy. And then on the bench, then I think it either will be Ethan Lewis or Lewis Lloyd again. Big Sexy. A Lewis, Big Sexy, and then Ben Warren.
Yeah. Rhys Davis.
I think is coming. The more I say it, the more I'm saying to myself, Rhys Davis starts because he is a Toby Booth favourite.
You probably want, considering the quality Edinburgh have got back in, a big player to be able to bring off the bench. And he would do that. He'd be a boost when he comes on.
The only thing I'm like, Rhys Davis doesn't necessarily tend to come off during games. So if he's on, he plays the full 80. He's also still in the top 5 for turnovers in the league. I tweeted that out the other day with a couple of stuff. Him and Tipperick are in the top 10 for turnovers in the league. And they both missed significant amounts of the season.
Yeah.
You want that against Edinburgh.
Yeah.
When you've got the likes of Watson, Venter, Matter, Lang, running at you, you want to target that breakdown. So I think actually having that Rhys Davis, maybe, the more I say it, the more he starts, but I'm going to say he's on the bench. Then we're looking at maybe a Hickey.
Yeah, I would probably go Hickey. Rudolph's an option.
It's
as
going
the
to be
other
Hickey or Rudolph. And then I'm going to say Cameron. I assume Luke is injured.
Yeah.
So Cameron Jones, no, not that one. Or that one. Scully and then Prothero.
Owen Williams back to fitness.
Oh yeah, Owen Williams
safety
and
option.
Then Prothero probably.
Yeah.
Or
Hopkins, depending on fitness, I think.
Which is a squad that can go out and win.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Any more on that before we finish on good player?
Are we doing the listener questions?
Yes. Yeah, very quickly. I'll go through listeners' questions.
Yeah,
I did tweet it out, so I probably should. I probably should read it out. So, We're seventh, but this is from Harry Thompson, very good listener of the pod. Good follow on Twitter as well.
And a great person to celebrate a win at Walford Road with, alongside Fiesta and yourself. Great person to do a victory.
I'm pretty sure him and his mates sit in front of me at the Swansea as well.
No, they're great company. They're a great time.
Harry,
if it is
you,
well.
do you normally sit in the East Stand in the bottom tier? Because I think you sit in front of me. So we're seventh, but our run of games to the end of the season is really tough. Can we make the playoffs? Robbie, you said all season it's what, 10 wins?
10 wins normally. It's getting really tight at the minute. As you said earlier, there's about 4 points between 4th and 10th. There's so Bennett are in 4th on 32 points. Connaught are on 28 points and 10th. So it's really tight there. So that's 1 win. So what I did, right, because I am a tragic person. One night when I should have been sleeping and I was worrying about the Ospreys making the playoffs, which is often what I do. I went through all the fixtures of the teams around us in the table left in the season and worked out projecting a rough amount. So also I'd expect to get 16 to 22 points ish this season, etc. Worked out an average of that because I am a lot of fun at parties. And from there, boil all that down to where I'd expect the table to go from an average of that. And the way I have it is the Ospreys finishing 8th and just sneaking in. Level on points with Benetton, so the chance we catch them points difference. But then Edinburgh, easily, if we beat Edinburgh this weekend, that could be huge for allowing us to sneak above them. The run of games is really tough, but Edinburgh also have a really tough run of games in their run-in. It's almost identical to ours. Yeah, so it's 2 games in South Africa, a game away in Ireland, a home game against 2 home games against teams they should beat. One being Zebre, similar to our Dragons game, which is kind of with a bonus. A bonus point, a realistic target. And it could come down to both this weekend in terms of who sneaks in, but also who picks up bonus points in those home games. Because, that's going to be big. And Benetton, their run-in is really tough. So I expect them to drop off a bit, where Munster are set in 9th. They were further up before the start of the Six Nations, and they're going to pick up a lot of steam. I think they're going to probably be pushing for a home spot rather than pushing for that 8th spot. But yeah, it's kind of Benetton and Edinburgh, the 2 teams I think you've almost got to be praying to drop points. Connaught and the Lions as well. But we've just got to finish above, of the teams in that zone, we've got to finish above 3 of them.
So I think I said on Twitter, the games we have to target realistically: Edinburgh away, Munster home, Dragons home, Cardiff away,
and Lions home.
And Lions home.
Yeah.
So actually, if we win on Friday, it does take the pressure off very slightly.
Yeah.
For that Cardiff game at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Because if we can pick up Lions home and Dragons home, you're sort of with the bonus points we have, we know Edinburgh don't score bonus points with Benetton dropping off, maybe it sort of is there. So definitely. Let's talk. We've got 2 questions in from Rodri. If we could poach one player from each of the other Welsh regions right now, who would it be? I've gone for Joe Roberts at the Scarlets. We need a 13. I think he fits that mould really well. I'll go for... Who with the Dragons do I really like?
And Aaron Owen, I'd go for.
Yeah.
First pick.
I'm trying not to go for another centre, though. There's be another centre. Just as a veteran 9, Rodri Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Just to sort of be that 3rd choice, just veteran 9. And then at Cardiff, I think I'd love to see what Duncan could do with a Domachowski or an Azarati.
Yeah.
Yes, then who would you pick?
Yeah, kind of in a similar position with the Cardiff squad, but I'd really like to see what Toby Booth would do with Thomas Williams, just in terms of would he let him continue to play his game or maybe control it a little bit more, maybe add a bit more box kick into his game and things like that. So probably an unrealistic option, but Thomas Williams. Obviously he's leaving the club at the end of the year, so I'm getting that one in just before he leaves. Will Reid from the Dragons, because why not? and yeah, he's really talented. Obviously, still a little bit young, but yeah, still a really good fly half. And from the Scarlets, it's kind of a little bit tricky because they're not performing so well. I was going to say Joe Roberts, but that one's been taken, so I better think of someone else. And if the Ospreys never signed Thomas Williams, I'd pinch Archie Hughes.
Yeah.
Archie Hughes is
That
good.
would be that's a bit more realistic compared to Thomas Williams. So Archie Hughes would be my pick from down west.
That's
Go
who
on,
I was
Robbie,
going to
give
go
me
for.
yours quickly.
No, I'd have gone for Archie Hughes at the Scarlets and Nairo Owen at the Dragons, who are two young players who I think are huge ceilings, would fit into that Ospreys team where youngsters are kicking on really well, really nicely, and probably good for their development as well, I would
and
say.
no one
personally.
from Cardiff.
Yeah. I don't need that.
Matt Sherratt.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I'd take one of the props as well, partly for their own development. Like Kieran Nazarati could come on loads under Duncan Jones. But then, they got any other players? I don't know. They're always restoring pride, aren't they? I don't think they actually play rugby. Josh Turnbull can play 250 games for us.
What Teddy Williams?
Teddy Williams would be a decent shout. Talupe Faletau. Take Faletau. No, we've got Morgan Morris. Do we need him?
Tackle bags.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have a rule, right? And I stand by this in all situations. If you can pick Talupe Faletau, pick Talupe Faletau. I would pick him in every game possible forever. Even if he's injured. If I was a coach, I'll be picking him. You could take Tina Sabir just so they haven't got to fly off, and that'd be funny.
That'd be hilarious, actually.
Or Cam Winnett, actually. I feel fullback's a bit up in the air at the Ospreys, and he's really solid, really settled. He might be an option. No one stands out where I'd have a really clear idea of who I'd want from the other two. From Cardiff, I feel we've got enough pride. We've got enough pride. We don't need to restore anymore. Willis Halaholo, maybe?
No, I was too injury prone. Owen Lane, just for bants. I want to do a social experiment where I lock him and Luke Morgan in a room and see how they communicate. Just what it would be like. Let's go. This is
James Botham. James Botham would fit the Ospreys kind of style of play.
James Botham.
Yeah. Let's go, James Botham.
Okay. Do you think Dan Edwards will be in the Welsh squad for the summer tours? I said yes, but Gatlin also hates the Ospreys, so no. But then also yes.
This may come up in the said video that features a clip of Sam Costello playing under 20s next week. I don't think he should be. I think he'd deserve it if he got in. I worry it'd be too soon for him, and I don't want him to be mismanaged. I think the Autumn International is the time to get him in. I think you give him a full season through, give him the start of next season where he's established, knowing he's in the 23 every week rather than kind of fighting for that place, and then allow him to, come into the World squad from there.
Are you saying he needs time in the saddle?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Much like a jockey, like Matt Sherratt himself, he requires.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. I think whilst he has shown, really encouraging signs of his development, I still think it's a little bit too soon. Obviously, everyone's mentioning the drop goal, which he kicked brilliantly against Ulster, but you kind of feel like, all right, he's still ridiculously young, but there's the odd error here and there which crept in. And obviously that's great resilience for him coming back into the game and nailing said drop goal. So I think the summer's probably a little bit too soon, which doesn't really help Gatlin because there's obviously a lot of debate about the Wales fly half shirt at the moment. And yeah, I think the autumn would be a really good chance to, well, as Toby Booth would probably say, more time in the saddle is, king. And yeah, I think, one of those autumn fixtures where you play in one of the smaller nations like Fiji, Georgia, if you give him a run out there, that's like a nice set into the international setup.
Yeah.
Let's very quickly. This links into Dan Edwards. Does Dan Edwards have a higher ceiling than both Costello and Lloyd? No.
Yeah, I think
it's really difficult to say because they're really different players.
Yeah. I think Johan Lloyd's international future is probably as a utility back rather than as out and out fly half. Where I think Dan Edwards is a fly half.
I think if you go off the evidence of what Costello and Edwards did in the under-20 stints, you're like, oh, hello, this could be fun. Like Dan Edwards in under-20s was like just throwing reverse passes and like ridiculous kicks, and sort of was, but then had like he had Archie Hughes and Bryn Bradley as well. So you're like, oh my god, if that core can stay Welsh, essentially, like, hello, this could be fun. It's not to say he has a higher ceiling, but I think he definitely has a ceiling equal to Costello.
Yeah.
But Costello has a lot more experience. Like Costello's been about 40 odd games for Scarlets as well as however many times for Wales now. So I'm going to ignore the first part of this question in terms of players who we think will be leaving, because we're going to leave that for another episode. In terms of where do you think, if there is to be any recruitment, what areas do you think we'll target? We've all said outside centre is something. Obviously, we know George is going. The only recognised outside centre we have is Owen Watkins and Tom Florence, and Owen Watkins interchangeable as a 12. I think we do need to sign outside centre. Everything else just depends on who leaves. So it's really difficult to say. It'd be nice to get in like a Kasende.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I feel like there's probably need for another second row, but you're probably not looking at a big signing there.
A lot of people have said we don't need one.
I don't think we need a big name, but I think you probably need an extra squad player because you've got Beard, Davis, and James Fender. Yeah, well, exactly. He'd be the perfect guy to bring in another young kid who we can bring through who has an incredibly high ceiling. Because at the minute we're relying a bit on Lewis Jones. They clearly don't feel confident starting him, and perhaps having another kid of that kind of ability, maybe a couple of years younger, like Johnny Green, who feels perfect. He's been so good for the under-20s. He'd be ideal. That'd be the thing I was looking for.
I think Johnny Green will be in. Lewis Jones will be going to South Africa on loan with the Cheetahs.
That makes sense.
I think that seems like something will happen with him. I think that's all the questions, really. Sorry, I've got Scarlet's fever trying to banter me on Twitter again, because they've tweeted me saying no one let Ospreys Eyrie see us, or they'll get all triggered again because Johnny McNichol has 18 offloads this season. Cool.
Brilliant. How many games has he won?
Great. Yeah. You're 14th, lads. We're not. We're literally twice as good as you in the league table. Cool. Right. So we've established that. Let's play good player to finish off.
Let's play good player.
Robbie's going to take the lead on this one this week.
So I want to bring you back. The year is 2005. It's the 27th of March, 2005. 1 week earlier, Wales had just won their first Grand Slam in decades. The week before, Gavin Henson fever is at the absolute height. Gavin Henson, this week, a few days before this game, was on the cover of Heat magazine. Which at the time was a much bigger deal than it is now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He'd been on the cover of The Sun as well. Gavin Henson was one of the most famous people in the country this week. However, the Ospreys went into the first game after the end of the season, had a couple of games left at the end of Six Nations, knowing that if they win this, they can secure the league title against Edinburgh. And so Gavin Henson, Shane Williams, a bunch of those players put their hands up to play in the game, despite only coming back 1 week earlier, because they want to go out for the title. And so, do you want to go through the Edinburgh Ospreys teams first?
Let's go through the Edinburgh one, because this was quite tragic.
This, for fans of average Scottish backs of the mid-2000s, of which I am a connoisseur, this is a glorious team. So at fullback, we have Hugo Southall.
Oh my God. This has got an awful start already.
On the wing and captain, Chris Patterson.
Of course.
One of the slowest fullbacks out there on the wing.
Good kicker, though. Did you know?
Great kicker. Once made a tackle on Ben Foden. Remember that?
Yeah.
Marcus DeRollo at 13.
Oh, Jesus, Marcus DeRollo.
Who is a player I had no memory of until doing the 2007 World Cup podcast, at which point I discovered I was right to forget him. Brendan Laney at 12.
No memory of that man.
No memory of that man whatsoever. Simon Webster on the wing.
Yeah.
Who has one major claim to fame, which is that he used to sell fingerless gloves to other rugby players. He had a side business selling fingerless gloves.
Well, he must have been a millionaire in the mid-2000s.
Yeah. Brock James kept him in business, bought him a house. Halfbacks, this is good. Phil Godman.
Oh,
Mike
yes,
Blair.
Phil Godman. Mike Blair.
Phil Godman, famously...
Mike Blair had Edinburgh playing like some of the sexiest rugby I've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
And then you go to Mike Blair, the player, and he's like essentially like if you could, he's the colour beige, if that was a rugby player.
Yeah.
But then you recognise who's outside him, and you have like Phil Godman, Hugo Southland, Marcus DeRollo. You're like, yeah, fair enough.
Phil Godman, nicknamed by his own fans World Class Phil, ironically.
Jesus, that's tragic. I'm sorry, Edinburgh fans.
Once kicked the winner against
Australia.
I remember that game well. And then Matt Gitto missed a last-minute conversion to win it.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Jacobson, a prop, who is a hero. Chunk, one of the all-time greats.
Really bold, wasn't he?
Yeah. Just
really
he was one of the last properly for want of a better word, fat props, where it wasn't really muscle, but he was a brilliant scrummager. With no conditioning work, did nothing around the field, but was a great scrummager.
Hey,
so kept the Scotland team until 2011.
Boy, do I have a player for you.
Andy Kelly at hooker, who remember nothing of, not to be confused with the journalist Andy Kelly. Craig Smith at tight head, remember nothing of. No. Nathan Hines and Al Kellick in the second row.
Good second row.
Good second row.
Test second row.
Yeah, young Al Kellick as well. Alistair Hogg, Simon Cross, and Simon Taylor as your back row.
Right. So for context, this year, the Lions tour obviously took 800 players. So go through it. It was Simon Cross,
Simon Taylor, Alistair Hogg. Ali Hogg.
So Ali Hogg was very good. I liked Ali Hogg. Simon Taylor went on that Lions tour and was weirdly okay, but didn't look like it. For those who don't listen, Blood and Mud Patreon do a Lions
it's so good. The 2005
and they do
so
the 2005 one. It's a fantastic listen, but they go through that squad in sort of great detail, and it is just baffling when you see that. Obviously, because it was Clive Woodward managing it, and then Wales had just won the Grand Slam, and that clearly pissed Clive Woodward off so much that he went back to, he was picking 2005 Scottish players. That's So yeah, that's a better back. That's a better forward pack than a back line.
Yeah. Bench Scott Laurie, who was all right. Alistair Dickinson, who was all right. Now, this guy I had not heard of. Fergus Pringle.
What a name.
Fergus Pringle.
Good name.
I looked him up. He's now the Scotland under-20s forwards coach. And also was kind of the most famous moment of his playing career was right before a game against Toulouse in the Heineken Cup at home. He ran across the full pitch back to the dressing room, just covered in blood. He refused to tell the coach what happened. So the coach then had to come out, Todd Blackadder at the time, had to come out and say, I had no idea what happened to him. I don't know why he wasn't able to play, because he didn't play in the match, because his face was covered in blood. He said he described him appearing as incoherent and bewildered and couldn't explain why he didn't play. The club planned to investigate the incident, but there's no published findings online of what happened.
I might put this to Sean Everett on Friday after the game and be like, did you ever find out what happened to Fergus Pringle?
That's a made-up name as well. What the name? Fergus Pringle. I can't.
Is he in witness protection and just got really good at rugby?
His name's actually like Jack Walker, and they just like, oh, different crisp. Come on. Dave Callum, Rory Lawson, Ben McDougall, who I looked up again because I'd never heard of him. Rugby league player, signed for Edinburgh to move over to Union because he had a Scottish gran. Won 2 caps for Scotland in 2006.
Because of course he did.
Yeah. But then the best one on the bench, number 22, as it was at the time, Mike Pike, former Canada fullback, who anyone that's listened to the 2007 retrospective I've done, I love this guy. He's an enormously tall fullback who kicks the ball a million miles. Miles Harrison once said in commentary, he's a good boy, Mike Pike. It has never left my head. That goes through my head daily. I think about Mike Pike all the time.
That is your... Oh, he's got it after Hassler.
Yeah. Again.
Oh, Mike Pike.
So
he's like the original Anthony Boutier.
Yeah. The Canadian Anthony Boutier.
The not Quebec Anthony Boutier.
So the Ospreys team, however.
Yes, no, proper team.
That won the league, that sealed the Ospreys' first ever league title against Edinburgh, as they're going to do this weekend. At fullback, Stefan Terblanche.
Oh,
brilliant player.
Do you follow Stefan Terblanche on Instagram?
No.
Good follow on Instagram. He's just like constantly like mincing about with other like former South African internationals, but there's also topless all the time. And it's just great because he's in unbelievable shape.
Joe Van Niekerk as well, who's gone mad and is now a cult leader.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Like, he's just in such good shape, and you're like, hello. Yeah, good player.
Good player. Richard Mustoe on the wing.
Oh, yes, Mustoe.
Good player.
Good player.
Scored that try against Australia, the Ospreys, famously.
Yes, then how old are you this time? Because you're younger than me. Oof. So we were all young at this point, right?
Rocking back the years. When was I born?
You were about 4, weren't you?
Oh, it's less than that.
Oh my God!
Oh, ridiculously young. I don't want to say it to make people feel old.
I'd have been about 8.
I was 2005, 7 or 6 or 7. So yeah, you were younger than me.
A lot.
I didn't know what the Ospreys was at this point. Then about a year later, I was introduced to it, and like a baby duck just went, "Oh, I love them," and that was it from there on out.
Richard Mustoe obviously was on that Wales tour of 2009, and then was cut and put on standby. The Dan Evans tour,
of course, yes.
Retired in 2012. Didn't realize he played at.
Because he played for Cardiff for quite a long time.
Yeah, for a pelvic injury, which makes it sound like he had a lot of sex. I had to retire.
hey, I was. Richard Mustoe. Ooh. I remember Greg Stray scored against Connaught once. Sonny Parker at 13.
Yes, peak Sonny Parker.
But at 12, the man of the moment, the most famous man in Britain at the time, playing for the Ospreys, which is a mental thought these days. Can you imagine if the most famous man in Britain was Kieran Williams? I think it'd be a better society. Less Taylor Swift, more Kieran Williams, I say. No, all sign Taylor Swift. Starting a women's team, signed to Taylor Swift, play 13. I'm rambling. It's Gavin Henson at 12.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the time where the butler told him to shave away, of course.
Shave away, Gavin. So, do you want to see a photo of Gavin Henson in 2005?
Yes.
This is a February. I'm going to send it in the WhatsApp. This is Gavin Henson at the premiere of Hell's Kitchen.
I saw this.
Oh, I think I've seen this one.
Yes. The peak of 2005. The most 2005 image ever made. If he's holding a Nintendo DS, that's it.
I will tweet this image out, right? So he's wearing black Oxford shoes, which have clearly been worn many times before. some jeans. He's got some nice pink detailing on there. The classic pinstripe black suit jacket. That horrible mid-2000s color gradient tie with a wide top and a nice white shirt. The signature. Yeah, it's not a good look, Gav. Not a good look.
Do you know what is a good look? This game,
win
24 points Gavin Henson scored. 24 of the Ospreys, 29 points. A try, 2 conversions, 5 penalties. Man of the match. The highlights of this are on YouTube. The Ospreys themselves posted them. And Gavin Henson makes a break off the kickoff. Like, he just cuts a line when they're just giving him the ball to, like, clear it. And he just makes a break and gets up to halfway. He was almost untouchable. And yeah, it was on the front page of Hello Magazine that week. The Guardian article is mostly about Gavin Henson being wonderful and incredible and talks about how he, an hour and a half after the game, was still being mobbed by fans, mostly female, it says, leading to one girl getting knocked over and ending up in tears, prompting her elder brother to join in the waterworks and their father to berate Ospreys team manager Derwyn Jones as the family departed without the prize of Henson's autograph. It's the height of Henson mania.
He was just ridiculous. And tell you who is going to enjoy this is Luke Upson,
Yes.
long-time Gav fan and alleged runner of not Gavin Henson Twitter accounts. Used to be one of the best, the OG Ed Jenks, I'm going to call that account. No, just what a player! That shave away that 2005 one was probably the first time I sort of paid attention to rugby, and then sort of didn't until 2008, or maybe that 2007 World Cup actually. But just that hair and that shave away, Gavin, or like the way Butler says in that last match against Ireland, Tom Shankland with a dummy, it's Kevin Morgan. And then sort of because Kevin Morgan was with us for a few years as S&C before he went to Bristol. My distinct love of Michael Owen at 8. Brent Cobain, all these, Gethin Jenkins throwing the ball at Ronan O'Garen's head is just glorious. So yeah, 2005 holds a special place in my heart.
There's something in Lynn Jones, the coach at the time, said afterwards, we've got to try and get Gavin some advice on how to handle all of this because you don't want it to ruin his career. And then mentions Barry John as the example. And it's a shame because it, feels very different and prescient now. But yeah, Shane Williams on the wing. It was all right.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, decent player.
Yeah, scored a couple of tries for the Ospreys over the years.
Yeah, squad player.
Yeah. Speaking of squad player, Matthew Jones at 10.
Oh God.
Saw him played for Bogendo like a year or two ago.
Really?
And someone, I think, is that the Bogendo Swansea? It might have been a couple of years ago. And someone in the crowd said, "Is that Matthew Jones, the former Ospreys player?"
He's at Pontypool currently, apparently.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, he's 39.
Do you want to know his career?
Please.
So he went Ospreys, then weirdly to Moseley, London Welsh, Worcester, Newport Gwent Dragons, Bristol, who he never played for. But he was at Bristol in that 2012-2013 season, so they were quite entertaining. Coventry for 3 years, and there's been at Pontypool. He's got 1 Wales cap.
Yes. That summer.
Against Canada.
Yeah. Oh, that awesome, yeah. Yeah.
No,
I remember his Dragons.
North America.
Oh, yeah, was that summer then? Yeah. I remember his run at the Dragons reasonably well. I remember having an absolutely terrible game in the Cardiff City Stadium when they're playing a European Cup game there for some reason when the pitch was frozen. That's too much detail. It's fine. We'll move on. Jason Spice at 9 scored a try.
Yes. Love Jason Spice.
Front row, Duncan Jones at loosehead.
Good player.
Good player.
Wasn't at the peak of his powers for me yet, though.
That will come. Barry Williams at hooker and captain.
Yeah, good.
A kind of icon of this era of the Ospreys, I think. Andrew Millward at tight head. Who, Perhaps best remembered not for the things he did on the field.
So my lasting memory of Andrew Millwood, and I text Yeston the day this happened, was I saw him, and this was when all the stuff was going on about him like going out, like leaving, and the club was in dire straits and stuff like that. He was sat next to me in a cafe, like on the next table over, and I just sort of text Yeston, "Oh, I'm sat next to Andrew Millwood," and he was like, "Unlucky." And then Andrew Millwood was like, never seen again. But Bully was a good prop. He was a good prop. He was a good servant for the Ospreys.
Brent Cobain and Jonathan Thomas in the second row.
Yes, Jonathan Thomas. Oh my God, I love that man.
Two underrated. Great players. Yeah, two really underrated players. Ryan Jones at 6.
Never went on to do it. Should have gone on the Lions tour as a full tourist.
Yeah, twice.
Did go, but should have gone properly.
7. Are you ready? Steve Tandy.
Ah! Jump scare. They should have a trigger warning there.
Scotland's defence coach.
Yeah.
Lions defence coach. Don't besmirch the name of
Warren Mowers back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, all right player. And at 8, a man who I imagine had a very difficult childhood, James Bater.
Jesus. Oh God, I bet secondary school was fun for him.
Yeah. So the bench, Richard Hibbard, a young Richard Hibbard.
Very young Richard Hibbard. Jesus, He must have been like, what would he have been? He must have been like 18 at this point, was he?
Probably.
Because he was young on that. When did Wales go to South Africa?
2008, yeah.
Yeah, he was young there.
So he was born... Oh, he would have been 21. Okay.
Jesus, he's older than I thought then.
Yeah. He's currently 40. So he played until he was like 38, I suppose.
Okay.
So Hibbard, Adam Jones.
Decent.
Great player. Again, Test Lion. Sorry, yes, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't.
No, just good. Yeah. Test Lion, as you just mentioned.
Lyndon Bateman.
Underrated.
Yeah. Richie Pugh, also underrated.
Yeah,
Wales Sevens.
Somewhere in the WRU setup, somewhere.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Perennial WRU employee.
The other person in the room for my James Hook anecdote was also there that day. Richie Reese.
Yeah.
Good player. I always rated Richie Reese. I always liked Richie Reese.
Yeah. He's hot and cold on comms at the moment.
Sure. Elvis Seveli, who
Elvis.
I'd completely forgotten, but good player. And again, I had to look this guy up because I didn't remember him. Adrian Durston, who played in he was the fullback in the last ever Wales A team and described by Lynn Jones as one of Welsh rugby's true enigmas.
That's basically saying, you're shit, mate. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the Ospreys team that won the first ever league title.
That's Adrian Durston is not his actual name.
Really?
His name is Peter Adrian Ronald Durston.
He didn't want to be Pete.
He's had a fucking great career. So Durston made his Bridgend debut in 1995. Was capped twice for his country in the Welsh tour to Japan. If that doesn't strike confidence. He was released in the summer of 2005. He played for Viadana.
Oh, yes.
Oyonnax and CS Bone or Beyond. Like that is a proper journeyman. That's a good career. Good play.
That's like one of those rugby squared things where you have to pick out a player that's played for two clubs and scratching your head for Ospreys and Oyonnax, thinking, who else is there?
We know the answer now.
Peter Adrian Ronald Durston.
Our favourite player, our new patron saint.
How did he think that Adrian was better than Peter?
It was the noughties, man. It was a wild time.
Oh.
People loved the name Adrian then.
Yeah. Right, I think that's us for tonight. That was
I
a
think so.
good player, though.
Yeah.
You can find us all good podcast providers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We also upload to YouTube as well. You can find Robbie at Squidge Rugby or at Squidgy Goats. You can find Yestin at Yestin_Thomas or me at Ospreys Eyrie. We will be back next week to dissect the Edinburgh game. Look ahead to the Ospreys' involvement in the France game. And we'll look at if it's Wales v France next week, could we do we want to do a traumatic good player and look at that one? Do you know the one I'm on about?
A Wales France game.
No.
Oh no, that
French
one.
side.
That one. Unrelated news. I probably can't make it next week.
No, yeah, there it is. But we will decide that in the week. So we might look at the traumatic Biarritz one, or even more traumatic recent, the Stade Francais one. But I think Yestin will actually cry in that one.
Oh, that's painful. Oh.
So we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.